resignation of Kitchener Centre MPP Laura May Lindo last July, a by-election has now been called to fill the vacancy. With a record-breaking 18 candidates signed up to be on the ballot, I invited the candidates representing the 4 political parties in Ontario that won at least 1 seat in the general election last year. They are Debbie Chapman of the Ontario NDP, Aislinn Clancy of the Ontario Green Party, Rob Elliott of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, and Kelly Steiss of the Ontario Liberal Party. Rob Elliott did not respond to a request for interview, and Debbie Chapman indicated interest in participating. However, we were not able to find a time to chat. First of all, let's hear from Ontario Liberal Party candidate Kelly Steiss. Here's our conversation now. And Kelly Steiss joins me now. Kelly, thanks so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here.
So first of all, do you want to just take 2 minutes to introduce yourself really quick to people that might not know who you are?
For sure. So I'm Kelly Steiss. I am your Ontario Liberal candidate in this upcoming by-election in Kitchener Centre. And I am pleased to stand before you. I have worked for the City of Kitchener for over 21 years. So as a civil servant, I bring a lot of municipal government experience.
Awesome. All right. So you ran in 2022, which was last year, which was during kind of the general election, and you're running again now. As far as I know, you're the only repeat candidate for the major parties. Why did you decide to run again?
So, and that's a fantastic question, because I had thought of that afterwards. It's like, okay, where do I want to be? And I met with some people who I respect as advisors, and they said, Kelly, you need to figure out what do you want to do. And so I believe in the value of the Liberal Party in our democracy. And I only recently became a Liberal member. So I was politically homeless for a long time. But I really appreciated the values and the approaches to governing that the Liberal Party has. And so I thought, you know what? I'm not ready to abandon them. I see a real seriousness in the party to build it back. And so I wanted to stick with it. And I'm so glad I did, because in this by-election, my entire team and more has come with me. So it's almost like we're just picking up where we left off about a year ago.
And one thing that's different about the Liberal Party from a year ago is that you actually don't have like a permanent leader right now. You're in the middle of a leadership campaign, which I'm pretty sure ends in a couple weeks, actually. What are some of the differences in running a campaign with a party leader and without like a permanent party leader, or are there any?
I think there's a lot of differences. So our by-election is November 30th. The voting for the new leader for the Liberal Party is November 25th and 26th, and we will declare our new leader December 2nd. I think there's no coincidence that Doug Ford put that timing in place, because we make him nervous. The Ontario Liberals make him nervous, and that, you know what, I think that's a good thing, because we need to hold people to account. The difference with having a leader and without is the leader really brings the platform and sets the direction. And we've had a fabulous interim leader in John Fraser, who has worked to really try and continue the momentum moving forward in a way that's respectful for Liberal values. So we've had Dr. Adil Shamji, champion patients, not profits. We have our members presenting and participating in committee and doing some really great work. But I think what does miss is that fulsome platform that a leader brings. And so once we have our leader on December 2nd, I look forward to working with them to create the platform that will take us into the 2026 election.
What are some of the key priorities this time around for the Ontario Liberal Party?
So our priorities are really about protecting public health care that we really need to make sure that privatization is not the way that we are leading, that we are protecting our public healthcare system. And that means valuing our doctors and nurses. That means valuing our other healthcare providers. It means looking at long-term care as a public entity and not a profit. We should not be profiting off the backs of our older adults who need the care and support as they age. And so that's one of the things that is a priority for us. Also, you know, holding this government to account and talking about the green belt and not selling that off. Green belt is something that the Ontario Liberal Party brought in because we believe that we needed to protect green spaces within our province. And so, you know, those are some of the things that we're really championing and trying to hold on to as we see this current government really trying to sell that all away.
One of the key priorities that the federal government and the provincial government too have been tackling recently and have received a lot of criticism for is the housing file. We have a lot of people that either can't afford the home that they want to afford, or that are just struggling to find a home in general. What is the Ontario Liberal plan to address the housing shortage?
So that's where I think, you know, we've got some ideas. Have they all been fully formulated? No, and I think our leader will help do that. But, you know, for me, when I look and think about homelessness, there's a few things that I hold really dear. So there's people who are homeless who are struggling with mental health and addiction issues, and sometimes, you know, people come to the conclusion that those are many people who live in the tents. And I believe that we need to invest in a shelter care model that we see being championed by House of Friendship and the Working Center in our region, which means not just providing people who are struggling with addiction and mental health issues, not just providing them with housing, but also providing them with kind of additional supports to help them work through kind of some of the everyday struggles. And I see that in the shelter care model, where on site they have access to doctors and nurses, where on site they have access to people who will help them build their resume. And that's one portion of people who are homeless. Within that tent network, we have people who are working full-time, yet can't afford to live in an apartment or whatnot and have to live in a tent. And we have students who have come here who can't find an apartment, who are living in tents. And we need to be working for our students. We need to be working collaboratively with the colleges and universities to say, we want your students to have a really great experience when they come to Waterloo Region, but we need to work together to make sure that there's not an additional strain on our system, so that we can support everybody, because we want our colleges and universities to boast about the great people that they're building and educating and inspiring to be thought leaders. And then I think about people like, you know, my son and daughter who are in their mid-20s and looking at this struggle to be able to afford to purchase a home, and they have some desires to do that. And so how are we getting involved? We need to work collaboratively with our municipalities and look at building up around our transit hubs. We need to look at how do we, for creative solutions. And I'm not one, you know, I'm as an MPP, I wouldn't be able to, you know, creatively think of every single solution. My success has always been about collaboration and bringing people to the table, because I think when we're able to do that, we can find some solutions out there that maybe we haven't thought of before. I want to bring inspiring and creative minds together to help tackle some of these issues, and I think it's out there.
As you might know, my show talks about the issues in Canadian, and I guess more specifically Ontario politics and how they affect young Canadians. I'm curious what you think the biggest challenge young people in Kitchener Centre, and young people is a broad term, you can do with that whatever you want. But the main challenges that young people in Kitchener Centre are facing and how you would address them as their member of provincial parliament.
Today, I had a chance to meet with a grade 5 classroom and talk about politics, and they had questions for me. And then I have high school students who are volunteering with my campaign because they need volunteer service hours, but they're also interested in politics. And I have some young liberals. So the University of Waterloo has a young liberals club, and they're coming out. And so for me, I answered your question around what do I think young people want. Well, I know because I've asked them. I internalize their voices, and some of the stuff that I hear, and I wrote this down, is one of the things they're talking about is tuition. So those young liberals who are attending University of Waterloo talk about the increases in tuition, and when when they're struggling to afford rent and groceries, and now they're looking at increases to their tuition, and where OSAP is not being as available as perhaps it used to. That's a struggle. When I'm talking to high school students, I don't know that I think some of the things that they're thinking about is a job, and really, where could they be employed? And then the grade 5 students today were actually talking about affordability. And so I was like, wow, grade 5, you're thinking about affordability? And I thought, wow, is that, this? Then I sat back and I thought, wow, are grade 5 students under stress because they see that in their families? And you know what? Grade 5 students should be going to school, learning about these things, but maybe not experiencing the depth of stress that they're under right now. And so it just motivated me at the end of today to go, okay, I need to continue to work harder for kids and for our future and for Ontarians, because right now it's really unaffordable.
I'm curious if there's an issue that you feel isn't getting enough attention in this campaign. What is there? There might not be one, but is there an issue that you feel is not getting enough attention in this campaign?
I think there's so much going on. One of the things, though, that seems to come up in a kind of an indirect way is some of the struggles with people, landlords and tenants, who need to go to the landlord and tenant tribunal to rectify some of the challenges that they're dealing with. We just heard last week there was a court case in Toronto where a individual was charged with sexual assault, and the case was thrown out because the time expired. And we're hearing about this all the time, and what the problem is this Ford government has not kept up their funding and their support of these tribunals, of the court system. And things are falling through the cracks. Our most vulnerable people are falling through the cracks. And so I don't know that we're paying enough attention to that. And also talking about how are we going to build our economy? We want people to be able to move here, live here, pay rent, pay for food. But if we don't have an economy that provides jobs and industry, then I think we're missing part of that cycle of living. So those are some of the things that I don't think are getting quite enough attention.
So a theme that's come up when I've been interviewing politicians across party lines too, is that politics is getting really aggressive and overly partisan. I'm curious, first of all, if you would agree with that assessment. I see your head nodding, but if you agree with that assessment, if you have anything to add, and what impact do you think that has on young people wanting to get involved in politics?
So I'm nodding and agreeing with you, because I'm seeing that in this current conservative government under Doug Ford, that only his ideas are good ideas, that no one else can bring anything to the table, that he's throwing out a lot of the gains that the Liberal Party made for our province. And I don't think anyone is all bad. And I think that, we have to find ways to work together. We can't every 4 years throw out what the previous government did. I think we need to have a really smart analysis of what is working and what is not working, using data and research to drive our decision making. Because if we're always having to change every 4 years direction, that's frustrating. It feels futile. And so I can't imagine as a young person looking forward to, maybe getting involved in politics, what's enticing about that? Because there's no longevity to the solutions that you're trying to bring to make life just a little bit better. And so that kind of disappoints me. But my optimism and my approach has always been about collaboration. Again, bringing people to the table. I don't profess to have every answer, but it's how do we bring people together and using their smart and creative ideas to move us forward.
My last question for you, Kelly Steiss. It's a little bit of a looking forward question. Where do you see Kitchener Centre in 15 years, and how do we get there?
In 15 years, I mean, no doubt we are going to be exploding with more and more people. And we need to have a planned approach that has the infrastructure that keeps up with the population growth. And so this means we have to work with our municipalities, our municipal government, because we need to make sure that they can do their job, which is providing for kind of the day-to-day, the essential services like stormwater and safe water treatment, and making sure our streets get plowed, and making sure that there's parks and recreation spaces that contribute positively to people's mental health. But we also need to be able to work with our federal government to say, okay, how can you help us get the stuff that we need in our healthcare, in our housing infrastructure, because that's the path forward. And we really want to make sure that we have a planned and thoughtful approach, and that needs to happen now. We know we're going to have a population explosion. We can't deny it, so let's plan for it. Let's work collaboratively, and let's support each other in that moving forward.
All right, Kelly Steiss, thanks so much for taking the time for Political Debrief this evening.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Next up, let's hear from Ontario Green Party candidate Aislinn Clancy. Aislinn, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
I want to start because some people might not know who you are, because you represent a ward in Kitchener, but not everyone that lives in Kitchener Centre, if I'm not mistaken. Do you want to take a quick second just to introduce yourself?
Yeah, no problem. So my name's Aislinn Clancy. I'm the Green Party candidate in the MPP by-election. So we're a person to represent you in Toronto, the Government of Ontario. I am a city councillor for Ward 10, which is King Street to the Expressway in downtown Kitchener. I'm also, I've been a city councillor, a school social worker. And also I'm a mother. So those are the things I've done in my career. And I've done a lot of climate action as a volunteer. I've volunteered with Mike Morris's campaign. I've been involved in Shift Action. So they are a divestment charity and citizen climate lobby. So that's kind of, and I was a board member for a community center for 8 years.
So you're currently a city councillor. You're part of the new class that came in just over a year ago now. And you want to make the jump to provincial politics already. What made you want to do that? What made you want to jump from one level to the next so quickly?
Yeah, so it wasn't the plan. This is an unexpected election. So that's number one. And what happened was the day after the municipal elections, Doug Ford opened up the Greenbelt and had Bill 23, along with many bills after it that changed the way we do city business. He really, I say, robbed my toolbox. So, imagine you apply for a job, you get the job, you're really excited to do what you wanted, what you've been called to do, what you've promised you'd do, and then somebody robs your toolbox. So that's part of my motivation is I've always felt like Doug Ford would cause harm to our planet. He's gone backwards on climate action. He's caused harm to our not-for-profit sector, to our healthcare and education. So I've always been trying to work against some of the things that he's been doing, but this was especially frustrating.
What are some of the key priorities for the Ontario Green Party this time around?
Yeah, we've been hearing from folks that affordability is really important. Lots of people are making the choice between paying their rent or buying groceries, or after they pay rent and groceries, there's nothing left to have fun or to save up or to go to school. Or so many stressors that are facing people on a fixed income, people on ODSP, young people who are trying to get a home. So we really would like to rebalance the economics of housing and groceries. Tax those big profits, get speculators out of the housing market so that we can make homes for people and that we can make sure that there's no gouging when it comes to our basic needs.
You touched on affordability there, and I'm curious to talk about housing more specifically, because I think a lot of people across the income spectrum in Ontario are struggling with the cost of housing. For people that are on lower incomes, it's finding an affordable place for rent. And for people that already own homes and have mortgages, it's that their mortgage has gone up by a significant amount year over year. So I'm curious, what are some solutions you think to solve the housing crisis on both sides of the housing crisis?
Well, and that's what I like about the green policy is we want to make sure it just like it's death by 1,000 cuts. We need to have many solutions for many different types of incomes and different types of housing groups. So like we believe that we need to build more densely and create opportunities to have more units close to where people work and play. So fourplexing across the province and getting rid of barriers to missing middle near transit, which is like 3-story buildings, 4-story walk-ups. But we also know that we need to get speculators out of the market. So let's make it easier for people to buy the houses instead of investors. And also we are really pushing for the government to get back into the work of building homes or paying, having subsidized co-op, deeply affordable and supportive housing for those low-income folks to ensure they have a roof. Personally, I've been working as a city councillor, and action I want to bring forward is renter protection. A lot of people are being kicked out of their homes illegally, and there's been no accountability. So I really hope that I can move forward on rent eviction prevention. I think eviction and rent eviction prevention is preventing homelessness and addictions.
Going more broad, maybe, what are some of the main issues that the young people in Kitchener Centre are facing right now, and how would you fight them if you were elected?
Well, for the last few years, I've worked with young people in schools. I'm a school social worker. So I've been there when a lot of young people have lost hope. They've dropped out of school, they're not attending, they're struggling with their mental health. There's other barriers and stressors they're facing trying to find a job. So I really feel that we need to address young people's well-being and opportunities. So I love to see young people get involved in volunteering, get out and going to work. I'd like to see us invest more in mental health supports to get rid of I think it's 28,000 young people are on the wait list for counseling. And I also would like to see the tech companies stop kind of gouging people's attention. They make so much money by hijacking our attention. And I think that that's wrong. I think that's negatively impacting young people's mental health. Young people aren't getting a good night's sleep, and it's affecting their relationships. And so, yeah, I'd like to see how we can support young people who are facing mental health challenges.
So, as the name suggests, the Green Party is known for its environmental policy. It's something that is kind of when people think of the Green Party, that's what they think of, right? Action on climate. But we have seen that other parties have also taken a significant portion of their party identity has become around the climate. I'm curious what different climate solutions you can offer compared to the Liberals or the NDP to other progressive parties that have vowed to fight climate change as well.
You know what? We've always been leaders in this area. I have a really personal depth of capacity to understand our finances. If we do climate action, but we're still, our banks and our pension plans are still heavily invested in fossil fuel expansion. So we need to say no to fossil fuel expansion. I would like to see an improvement on our green development standards. So as a city councilor, I lobbied a developer, and they are building 2 buildings that are without natural gas. So that's really important. And we know that we need to be part of the green tech innovation. There's $1.1 trillion in the green tech economy. And Kitchener-Waterloo, Kitchener is known for innovation. We have these schools nearby, we have lots of entrepreneurs, and I think we could be leaders in this if we have the political will. So I'd like to see us grow our ability to manufacture heat pumps and get those into everybody's buildings. They're heating and cooling, it's 4 times more efficient. We can build our buildings with really strong roofs so that we can put solar panels on top of that. I know our local company VCT has been advocating for that. So we'd like to see definitely an increase in transit connectivity and use, investment in green tech economy, and of course renewables beyond everything else. We know renewables are the most financially responsible way to grow our grid, and we know that they're also better for the planet. Other parties continue to vote against climate action. We saw that this week. The PCs and the NDP voted against climate action.
Something that a lot of my guests have brought up on the show, and across party lines too, is that the political culture or the political atmosphere is getting really bad. And we're even starting to see that creep into municipal politics as well, where it traditionally hasn't, and I'm sure you would agree with me on that. Given this atmosphere of hyper-partisanship and, a seemingly unwillingness to collaborate, what would you say to young people that feel discouraged by the current climate, the political climate?
Well, I say vote green. We believe in collaboration. We don't whip a vote, so you're not kicked out if you disagree. Other parties will vote against a motion just because it's not theirs, even if they agree. We saw this with the Liberals this week, so we believe in honesty. We believe in cross-party collaboration, and we believe that people come before the party. So, I think we see that too. We want to do politics in a different way. And so that's why we have these policies. It's part of our values. It's part of our party core values is to collaborate, work together across party lines to get things done and put people first.
All right, Aislinn, my last question for you this afternoon. Where do you see Kitchener Centre in 15 years, and what's needed today to prepare for that?
I think we know that it's growing, right? We have a really quickly growing population, so that will lead to more density. We're already seeing that. I think that connectivity will come as a result. I think a lot of people don't want cars. They don't want to spend their days stuck on the 401. So I think that's going to ramp up. I think transit is going to be a more viable option going forward. We are diverse, so I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful that we won't leave anyone behind, though. I met an older man who said he had to eat at Tiny Home Takeout because he needed to pay for an air conditioner. He's on ODSP. He has COPD, which is a breathing disorder. And so he had to eat at the food bank in order to pay for the air conditioning. I would like to see us not leave anyone behind, whether that's related to climate or housing. My hope is that we can work really hard to protect tenants, to build the units we need to make sure no one's left in a tent in the winter, and that we can also think about climate adaptation and make sure that people have access to cooling in their homes so that they don't die or get really sick as a result of the climate emergency. My hope too is that our way of heating and cooling our homes, generating energy will be local, that we can have solar panels and geothermal and district energy to make sure that we can generate our energy in a way that doesn't cause harm.
All right, Aislinn Clancy, thanks so much for taking time for Political Debrief today.
Nice. Yeah, I'm really impressed, Josh. And thank you for having me. And I hope that, I know you have a bright future. I don't even have to hope. Yeah, and it was great seeing you again. Keep up the good work.
And that's it for this episode of Political Debrief. Thank you so much for watching. And I would invite you to follow us on social media on Twitter at Josh Oliverio, on Instagram at Josh_Oliverio, and all other social media. You can find those links down below. As well, I would invite you to check out the blog post that is linked down below with some additional information about the election. And if you live in Kitchener Centre, make sure to vote on Thursday. See you next time.